You know, Charles, I don't know if I've ever seen this movie, The Thomas Crown
Oh,
Affair,
yeah.
but I do like a
Great.
good heist movie. How are you tonight?
No, it's a great movie. I think it came out in the early 70s, late 60s or something like that. Or maybe there might be several versions.
Yeah, this is the remake with Pierce Brosnan. Well, this is the remake with Epstein, the Epstein affair. And of course, you know, there's all kinds of screwy business going on. We have so much to talk about today with Pam Bondi and her frankly shameful performance in Congress. But, you know, Charles, before we get underway, I have a really important announcement to make. We should be, if everything is working properly, yes, we're joined today for the first time, 5 years to the day, Charles. It was February 11th, 2021, that Crowdsource the Truth 2 was banned from the internet. And, you know, people who were subscribed over there were 27,000 plus people who used to watch us there who, like when the Death Star destroyed Alderaan, it was as if 1,000 voices cried out and then were suddenly silenced. But, you know, I created a very special animation to announce the news to everybody. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this. Yeah, let's give everybody an opportunity to see this. This is a little counter lawfare news.
Counter lawfare on the march. February 2021, Crowdsource the Truth 2 is banned. Founder Jason Goodman's social media reach is instantly crushed. Thousands of videos, millions of views, totally obliterated.
Coming on their motorized.
Hapless YouTube viewers were forced to endure drivel and wrath.
Hey, this one's got a cat playing a piano. What'll they think of next?
Social engineering lawfare practitioners delighted in the notion that Goodman might never be seen or heard from again. But the tireless warriors of counter lawfare never rest. Doing battle in the court of YouTube and anywhere lawfare rears its ugly head.
There you go, Charles. Counter lawfare on the march. Thank you. You know, 6 hours to do that. Something like that, even just a few years ago, would have taken literally weeks to put together. It's unbelievable. But how are you tonight, Charles?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. I hope you're well. I think what we ought to do first, if we can, is there's a tape of Ehud Barak and this nitwit, Jeffrey, dangerous, foolish, criminal nitwit, Jeffrey Epstein, that is out at various, the Department of Justice released it. Who knows if it's authentic? But there's been a lot of chatter about how this guy's a financial genius and, you know, a successful investor and this and that. This is a tape of him talking to the former prime minister of Israel. And it's just astounding. It's a 2-minute tape.
He thought there was 2 cyber companies. Look out, and even though I know Peter, I've never met Peter Thiel, and everybody says he sort of jumps around and acts sort of strange, like he's on drugs.
Smoking, yeah. He looks there under drugs.
However, he has a company called Palantir, P-A-L-L-E-N. T-I-E-R. Palantir is Peter Thiel's company. And look out.
Yeah. Palantir, P-A-L-A-N-T-I-E-R?
Yes. So he thought that Peter would put you on the board of Palantir. Peter Thiel is one of the best. I've never met him. He's going to come here next week. Yeah. So I wanted to talk to him after I talked to you.
I think it keeps going.
Dramatic music. Well, Charles, it's amazing they can't spell.
No, there's no way, you know, there are people who have heavy, instead of Brooklyn accent, or I don't know what it is, but you can't spell. You're making these statements about a man you've never met. Palantir is a very well-known company. It's a big company. You should know how to spell the name of the company. Why? I mean, it's preposterous that people like, you know, Bill Gates and Les Wexner and all these people gave this guy any more than a postage stamp, let alone billions of dollars to manage. I would cancel a meeting with a guy who came in and talked to me like that. I'd just say, listen, your time is up. I don't know how you got into this room. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so for Pam Blondie, and others to try to say, as she did just now, when pressed with reasonable questions, to say, why don't you care about where the Dow Jones is? Okay, idiot. Are you saying that if the Dow Jones went down, that's all we should talk about? Are you saying that when somebody walks in, stands accused of murder in a courtroom, that the defendant can say, why are we talking about this? The Dow is up a lot. It's just ridiculous. And it's not as if Pam Blondie was a Rhodes Scholar and a distinguished litigator or lawyer. To call somebody who's asking her questions who's a member of Congress a washed-up lawyer, I mean, you're looking in the mirror right now?
It was unbelievable. It was like a hostile deposition. She was treating it like, interrupting them. Even Jim Jordan had to tell her to calm down and let the person speak.
Yeah, it's completely wrong. And when you hear, I mean, until recently, I had not heard Epstein's voice. That is not the voice of a superstar investor. It just isn't. And then when on top of that, there are all these suspicious emails, headline 10, 11, talking about girls. There's just, you have lost the ability to have deference at this point. We are past the stage, unfortunately for Trump. We are past the stage that Richard Nixon was not when he had to leave in disgrace, but in the famous Checker speech, when he stood accused of taking a gift that he shouldn't have had or something like that. And he had to go on national television back in the day when that was a real thing.
Checkers was the dog?
Yeah. And I think we're well past this now. And the problem for Trump, and I said this in November or December of 2016, the problem for Trump is that he is super rich and that he has all of these assets all over the world. And he has children who are interested in business and are going to try to carry out business going forward. There cannot be a suspicion that he is milking the White House for his personal profit. And this type of behavior, the only reason you can explain this is that the bunch of people who look bad already somehow got to Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, who is a former lobbyist, who hired Pam Blondie to be a lobbyist after she was a washed-up politician. And somehow they got to these two ladies and said, we can't have, if the local prosecutors in Israel or elsewhere start going into this in the kind of depth they could, we are in deep trouble, and we don't want to be in deep trouble. This latest thing, there's an email chain that somebody has a story on, and I circulated it to you and others, Jason, involving a member of the Rothschild family who supposedly paid Epstein to get out of some kind of IRS problem below $100 million. This lady supposedly paid Epstein $25 million and paid Catherine Rumler, who I believe was after Bob Barr, what's his name? Robert
Bauer.
Bauer. Yeah, after Bauer left as White House counsel, she became the replacement, I think. And she was involved getting the fake, the electronic version of Barack Obama's, in theory, birth certificate. She was involved in that whole mess. She supposedly gets paid a fee in connection with this transaction of $10 million. There is no way, no how, that you can justify the fee to Epstein, the fee to Rumler, and the fact that somehow Rumler managed to go and survive due diligence to become the top general counsel right now of Goldman Sachs. There is no way she would have gotten through a legitimate vetting if people had pulled hard and said, what the hell were you doing? This is after Epstein has to sign that, that deal in 2008. Well after that, she's collecting this fee after she was White House counsel, and then they put her in to be general counsel at Goldman Sachs. This is preposterous. And what is really dangerous now for Trump is it's not unreasonable to be asking these questions. And the more that you try to say, don't look over there, you're wasting my time, I'm too busy inflating the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the more you do that, the more you look as if you're likely complicit, either you or family members. And you're past a point now where you could just talk your way through it. I mean, the opinion polls that are taken in the next few days that ask whether it's reasonable to press on with investigating what really happened with Epstein are going to be overwhelmingly bipartisan in favor of doing so. And the only reason to try to pretend that that you did a good job or that it's not important to go down this route is because you're implicated, either you or your family members or people close to you. This is not good. It is defending the indefensible.
What about Kash Patel's crash out hearing just yesterday? That wasn't good either.
Yeah, I mean, these people are not. See, the problem with the swamp versus the state is that with a lawyer, most lawyers, are not that numerate. They don't understand investing. They do know how to live well. And if you go into government service, if the deal is you spend a certain amount of time and you're not making nothing as a government lawyer, if you're married and your wife is working or husband's working, you can have a nice living on a joint income in public service. And then though you go from not investigating what the big guys don't want you to investigate, and your payoff is a partnership in one of these big law firms like Williams and Connolly or Covington and Burling. There's a long list of them. And so, given that incentive is out there for you to personally benefit, and also given that if you take on the state, you're punished severely. The supposition is that in the minds of the general public that the whole system is rigged, and that you just better understand that, because if you complain too loudly, you become unalived or destroyed, debanked. This is not resonant. The pitch did not go well.
No.
And if I were Trump, I would fire her, Patel, and Blanche, and a whole bunch of these people, and I would bring in, I don't know who, but a team of real, experienced, above reproach people to try to get this back on track. People, very powerful people, are clearly implicated in this Epstein thing. It's not just Epstein. Epstein's ring is not the only one that was operating. And the question is, at this point, how many people are compromised? To me, it seems like, most of the people, many judges, many government officials, many heads of state, many former heads of state, many billionaires. Because, this guy was not providing, he can't even spell. There's no way the fucking guy was providing state-of-the-art tax advice. There's just no way. How many times have you had a meeting with a tax accountant when they're, 15 and 16-year-old girls running around the office, and there's, a banquet, and there's, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Charles. When you were in the world of, multi-million and billion-dollar deals, if somebody was telling you about this new company, Palantir, and he spelled it to you incorrectly when you went to look it up to see if you would invest in it, wouldn't that alone be like, this guy's an idiot? How could...
Well, again, it's a public company. Maybe it wasn't public at the time of that conversation, but now it's a public company. I don't need somebody who can't spell or string a sentence together to pretend that he can introduce me to somebody he's never met.
Right. Because
what he's actually doing is he's going to the Prime Minister of Israel and saying, I can get you to Peter Thiel, and going to Peter Thiel and saying, I can get you to the Prime Minister. And the notion that this moron would be able to recommend to Peter Thiel, somebody he's never met, that Ehud Barak should go on Palantir's board of directors. Why don't you ask your doorman? Why don't you ask the guy selling a knish in Coney Island what stocks do? It's ridiculous. And the fact that people would be at this stage trying to pretend that what they were doing was legitimate is preposterous. I mean,
Yeah.
Catherine Rumler needs to be dragged by the scruff of her neck before Congress. She should be fired at Goldman Sachs, first of all, but she then needs to be dragged into Congress to explain what was the basis for your collecting $10 million in a transaction where somebody had to pay a $45 million fine. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Another thing that came up in the hearing is they were asking Ted Lieu, actually. This was a really bad hearing because there were things said by people like Ted Lieu and Jamie Raskin that I agreed with. I was like, Pam Bondi, no, it was just not good. Not good. They asked why she hadn't, they brought up that thing about the torture video. They brought up Prince Andrew. And they said, how could you look at this and say that there was no evidence to prosecute anyone? And she went to, oh, you just want to talk about this because you don't want to talk about crime in
that's ridiculous.
New Jersey
like
or whatever. And it was like, yeah, she was being like a Democrat trying to deflect with negative comments about another topic. It was very not good.
Preposterous. I mean, when did Pam Bondi become Jasmine Crockett? That's the kind of bullshit that she would pull.
Exactly.
You know, I'm surprised she didn't say, you're just asking me all these questions because I'm black. You know, it's
There's an AI meme in there somewhere, Charles.
I know. No, this went really badly. This is like, you know, you go to sleep shit-faced, having been at a party, not exactly sure how you came home, and you know, you wake up and you're not in your house. And you try to find somebody and say, did I do anything wrong last night? I mean, that was a disaster, what I saw of it. An unmitigated disaster. And now Trump is on the hot seat right now.
Yeah, and she raised something about anti-Semitism with a Jewish House member who flipped out. Her grandfather was a Holocaust victim, and she was like, how dare you? And it was like, Jim Jordan, I mean, you know, trying to separate two girls fighting, it's like, oh boy, fur flies.
Yeah. Not good. Not good, but also, you know, it's now to the point, the Epstein mess was a tawdry mess, a long time ago, 18 years ago. It was the settlement, right, in 2008. Before the 2008 election. Why did they need to settle that thing before the 2008 election? Was it because Epstein was so centrally involved in, flying around Africa with Bill Clinton, and Ira Magaziner, pretending that what Bill Clinton and Ira Magaziner were actually doing was charitable work, when it certainly was not. It was never authorized. It was explicitly not. There's on-point tax court decisions that categorically state that a buying consortium for drugs is organizing a buying consortium for drugs where members get a discount on the purchase price of drugs is explicitly not charitable activity, because the drug maker is making a profit on the sale of those drugs. And, you know, Magaziner is such an arrogant moron that he and Bill fell all over themselves with this construct that they would go to, you know, branded makers of antiretroviral drugs. Those are drugs that arrest the progression of HIV into AIDS. That the branded versions of those were very expensive, and mainly Indian drug makers, some Chinese, could produce generic copies of these branded drugs, which could be sold at a profit at a much lower price. But the branded drug companies make sure that their drugs are distributed properly. You know, there's a real risk with these
as well.
If you don't hold these drugs properly, store them properly, and if the drugs themselves are not even real, then you could be doing enormous damage. So what Clinton and Magaziner did from mid 2002, early 2002 till June, or whenever that settlement was with Epstein, should have been investigated. Indeed, the FDA was investigating in this time frame Ranbaxy, which was one of the major suppliers, as it turns out, of adulterated HIV drugs through the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative, which didn't legally exist, and likely also through PEPFAR, which was, you know, George W. Bush's brainchild. So, I mean, this is a tremendous mess here that will get sorted out in time, and perhaps decades from now, but it will get sorted out. And Trump is being maneuvered into the position of being an accomplice in the cover-up, and that is not where he needs to be.
Charles, in the same theme of people who maybe we don't normally agree with saying stuff that we might agree with, Politico is saying that House Democrats think Pam Bondi just helped them in the midterms, and frankly, I think they're right. It was a disaster from her.
She's incompetent.
She's incompetent.
And who could have respect for this person?
Yeah.
And certainly, remember that the criminal element doesn't give a shit about the law, right? They regard the legal system as the cost of doing business. Criminals around the world who want to make hay inside the U.S. looked at this and said, Jesus Christ, let's pack our bags and get inside these blue cities and states. We got some fraud to do here. Because this person, I mean, for the Department of Justice to conclude that there's nothing to see here makes me wonder how many underage girls are running around the Department of Justice. And boys. And harkens back to, remember, there's that Boys Town scandal that allegations were made and then recanted under pressure, that interns were basically being trafficked, or young kids were being trafficked out of these orphanages, or whatever you call them, into Washington, D.C., into the Oval Office. Those allegations were made when George H.W. Bush was president. And then the scandal simmered down and died, and so people who'd made allegations recanted them. But George H.W. Bush didn't win re-election.
That was the bombshell that didn't explode, according to the Washington Post. But also something else that they brought up in the terrible Pam Bondi hearing, they were like, hey, by the way, why did you completely disband the cryptocurrency investigation department? And she was like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom, because they were talking about how Trump is, it looked super bad. She did not have good answers prepared for what should have been obvious questions. It was really, unimpressive she failed today.
We missed a golden opportunity, which maybe we can rectify for the paid version. While we talk, we should have in the background the Michael Jackson song Bad. She's really, really bad.
She is really bad, and not bad meaning good. Charles, there's this new AI video model called C-Dance that's creating super realistic videos, and people are making like Michael Jackson do kung fu fights with Jackie Chan and stuff like that. Yeah. And so there was this article that came out, I think, today. We can talk about this some more perhaps later, but this article came out today from this guy, Matt Schumer, saying something big is happening and most people will be blindsided, where he's just talking about how, over the past, say, 3 or 4 years that people have been using AI, it's gone from being this, frequently hallucinating, interesting tool to something that can really do people's jobs for them. I'm telling you, if you haven't seen these video demonstrations yet, I don't know how they're letting it make all these copyrighted videos with Michael Jackson and Iron Man and Captain America, but somebody remade a fight scene from the Avengers movie. And those movies cost like $200 million to make. Now you can just talk to this Chinese app, and for 80 cents a minute or something, you make visual effects that basically look just as good. But we're going to continue this conversation, Charles. I want to welcome back all of our viewers on Crowdsource the Truth 2, where that channel has been in exile for 5 years, and it's like the Monte Cristo, the Count of Monte Cristo of YouTube channels, Charles. It was up in that tower writing letters to YouTube, but it's finally back. So welcome back, everybody. Join us on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. People can also follow me on X at JG_CSTT and subscribe there for the sponsor